Pokemon games are by far some of my favourite games to sit back and relax with. Going through all the different available regions, completing each of the Pokedexes, battling with a wide variety of Pokemon, some that I absolutely love and adore, and others which just aren't in my wheelhouse. Feels like a great way to transport myself into a whole new adventure and take time away from our regular lifestyles. And over the last few years I have gotten more and more into an alternate way to play the game: shiny hunting. This is mainly due to games like Pokemon Go, Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet making shinies much more widely accessible and introducing new methods to hunt them. With the release of these games as well as the Pokemon Let's Go franchise, shiny Pokemon began to start appearing in the overworld, making the thought of finding your desired hunts that much more appealing. For this reason I decided to try out a challenge I'd never done before: a shiny badge quest. For those who don't know, a shiny badge quest is a self-imposed challenge which requires players to catch one shiny Pokemon before taking on each gym badge. This results in having a total of 8 shiny Pokemon before completing the game and getting the honour of registering your unique shiny team into the Hall of Fame. To make this challenge even more difficult on myself, I decided to come up with a few additional rules. These are on screen now. Feel free to pause the video here if you would like to read them. With the hardest part of this challenge being the shiny hunting, I didn't want to go too crazy with the rules for my first time attempting this challenge. Maybe in the future we can come up with more difficult rules. But without further ado, here's how I completed my first ever shiny badge quest in Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. We began our journey by naming our rival. I decided to go with the name Alfred due to recently rewatching some of the Gotham series and thinking just how much Alfred helps to instill great traits in young Bruce Wayne, and hopefully will help to do the same for our badge quest. After talking with Professor Oak, getting our Pokedex, then watching our rival Alfred sprint out of the lab, we can now think about getting our first shiny Pokemon off the run. Unfortunately, the starter Pikachu they give you has the dreaded shiny lock, meaning we won't be getting a shiny starter for our journey. Shiny locking Pokemon is such an annoying feature in my opinion. Why not let the fans spend hours upon hours soft resetting for their desired shinies? With this being the case, it means that instead we need to spend what I like to call the Wheel of Misfortune. Now before we start the hunt, I should explain the method for Pokemon Let's Go to reduce the shiny odds. You ready? It's simple. Catch Pokemon. Seems simple enough, right? Well, in this game the shiny method used to reduce the odds is called the Catch Combo, whereby catching Pokemon of the same species starts a chain, and by reaching a combo of 31 the odds are drastically reduced. However, this chain can be broken if a Pokemon flees, you close the game down completely, or if you catch another Pokemon. So what are the odds of finding a shiny Pokemon normally? Dear God. Well, thankfully, by reaching that chain of 31 I mentioned earlier, it gives the next Pokemon of the same species that spawns in a 1 in 341 odds of being shiny, which definitely sounds a lot better. So with that explained, let's spin the wheel to find out our first hunt. So with our first hunt now decided, let's head over to Route 22 where we'll begin the hunt for our first shiny Pokemon of the badge quest. What's important to note here is that throughout the Pokemon games, various areas have select places to be able to reset the spawns quickly, like entering doors or going in and out of caves, as well as ascending or descending the ladders. Unfortunately for us, Route 22 doesn't have a particularly quick way to reset the spawns. Therefore you either have to travel back and forth between the door to Victory Road, or head all the way back to Viridian City to be able to reset the spawns if the Pokemon you're hunting for doesn't show up due to the limited amount of spawns in each area. Although with this new catch combo method reducing our odds so dramatically, it shouldn't take us too long to get a shiny, right?
6 months later.
Oh my god, that took a lot longer than it should have. Well, this hunt just took over 7 hours and we finally got the shiny Nidoran. Well, now that we have our new shiny companion Nidoran, who I've named Henry, it's time to take on the first gym in Pewter City. Now in this game, each of the gyms has a set of requirements before allowing entry, and the first gym needs us to have a grass type. Since Henry or Nidoran isn't a grass type, I have to make a quick stop to pick up an Oddish before being allowed to challenge Brock. With that done, we can now enter the gym and take on Brock for our first badge. He starts off by sending out his Geodude, which Henry is just waiting to show who the boss is around here. With one Pokemon down, Brock now sends out his ace Onix, which is faster than our Nidoran, but we managed to take it out and earn ourselves the Boulder Badge. After exiting the gym, we encounter Blue, who just seems to brag about how Professor Oak is his gramps and calling himself an elite trainer, trying to give us advice before heading off. It's not like I've been playing Pokemon for years without learning much, you know. I know what I'm doing. Well, sort of. So with that first badge now acquired, it's time for another wheel spin to find out what our next shiny hunt is going to be. Yo, with Zubat, it's so good, such a diverse typing which will help with the rest of the badge run. With our next hunt now decided, I make my way through Route 3 and 4 to get to Mount Moon, where we'll find the next member of our shiny badge quest, Zubat. However, as we enter into Mount Moon, we stumble into Jesse and James from Team Rocket, looking very suspicious. As it turns out, they're here to snatch some fossils. Lucky for us, we don't have any they can steal from us. So after they run off, we can continue on our mission to find shiny Zubat. While running around and looking for our new shiny friend, we built up a decent catch combo of 55, and I'd say we were doing relatively well catching as many Zubats as possible, due to how tough they can be to get a good throw on, because of how much they move around. But if we keep going, hopefully we'll get a shiny soon. Wait, what? That was its flee animation? How is that much different from its attack animation? Like, come on! Looks like we're gonna have to start from square one all over again. After grinding away for roughly another hour, we finally managed to get our shiny Zubat at a catch combo of 71. After finally catching this shiny Zubat, I decided to nickname it Zuzu. Now that we've added a second member to our team, we can start focusing on getting through Mount Moon. While proceeding through Mount Moon, we came across a Moonstone which will be useful later in the challenge, in evolving Henry into a Nidoking. Then after beating up some Team Rocket grunts, we came across this guy obsessed with fossils. After defeating him and choosing a fossil that might be completely useless to us since this is a shiny badge quest, and our encounters are chosen at random, meaning we might not even get the chance to use it. But now that we have this fossil, Jesse and James immediately begin to harass us and demand we give them the fossil. Again, before I can even respond, they just throw me into a Pokemon battle. After defeating both Jesse and James, they run off, leaving us to find the exit to Mount Moon ourselves. Once out of Mount Moon, we can finally head to Cerulean City, the site of our next gym badge. However, before we take on the gym, we come across our rival, shouting about something I can't quite understand. Then, for some reason, he initiates a Pokemon battle with us, which subsequently leads to me running over his team, using just my Nidoran to defeat his Pidgey, Eevee, and his Oddish. Moving on from their battle, our rival mentioned about coming across a talking Pokemon, and so we head up Nugget Bridge, beating all the trainers there as well as on Route 25. This coincidentally led to our Nidoran evolving into a Nidorino, and I decided to wait on evolving Henry into a Nidoking due to it not learning certain moves before evolving. We finally come across Bill's house, but it seems like no one is home, although our Pikachu does find another Nidorino hiding behind the desk. Wait, what? It talks? Okay, now I know what our rival was on about back at the bridge. But what's so surprising about the talking Pokemon? Jesse and James Meow from Team Rocket have spoken for the past 20 years. Anyway, it turns out this Nidorino is in fact Bill, and he wants our help to revert him back to human. So we press some buttons on the computer and a small sort of explosion occurs, and Bill just happens to appear from the smoke. As thanks, he gives us some tickets to board the luxury cruise liner the SS Anne. Before we take a nice relaxing cruise, we still have to battle Misty and get our second badge of the badge quest. So it's off to the Cerulean Gym now to defeat Misty. I have to admit, all the different cutscenes for when you enter the gym have been done amazingly and give you such a good vibe in preparation for defeating each of the different gym leaders. With all that said, it's actually time to take on Misty, and I quickly find out how strong our water types are, with our Psyduck quickly defeating Zubat. However, Nidorino manages to take out Psyduck not long after, only to then fall to Misty's ace, Starmie, and its terrifying Psywave. So after a quick trip to the Pokemon Center, then doing a bit of powering up for our team, I took on Misty for the second time. This time I led with Henry instead of Zuzu due to Psyduck's confusion, which evidently paid off with Henry quickly defeating Misty's Psyduck, although Misty wasn't ready to go down without putting up a fight. and our Starmie quickly hit back with a powerful Scald, defeating our Nidorino. After Henry was so ungraciously knocked out, it was up to Zuzu to defeat Misty's Starmie. The Zuzu under half health and Starmie going for a powerful Scald, I thought the battle was over and we were going to have to do this all over again. Thankfully Zuzu managed to just hold on and then defeat Misty's Starmie. With Misty now defeated, we've earned our second badge of the badge quest. I can now look towards Vermilion City and our third hunt of the run. With Cerulean City now firmly behind us, we should be looking at what our next possible random wheel encounter should be, right? However, I decided that to speed up future hunts and travelling to other locations in the game, to add one additional side hunt to the challenge. Now you might be wondering what I am considering. Well, no need to wait too long, I will just tell you. The hunt that I decided on was to go for one of the shiny ride Pokemon available throughout the game. Upon reaching Vermilion City, we can now get to the site for our next shiny hunt. By speaking to the person situated at the bench, you can begin the introduction to getting your first ride Pokemon. In Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, the one they give you is Persian. Thus began the soft resets for shiny Persian. I chose this one to hunt since it's one of the few Pokemon you can get as a ride companion this early without having to catch it in the wild. Now admittedly, this wasn't necessary and was going to be a long hunt since you can only do about 70 to 80 soft resets per hour, which can be quite time consuming, even more than regular encounters. Now in most other games, a regular shiny hunt can average up to 180 encounters per hour depending on the game. Our other biggest issue with this challenge was that shiny Persian isn't much different to the normal version, with the biggest difference being the colour of the ears. But after hours and hours of hunting and feeling like we were never going to get this shiny, on soft reset 1114 this happened. Yo! We finally got it! Was this worth it? Absolutely not. Would I do it again? No, probably not. However, here is hoping that it will help with speeding up our progress for the rest of the challenge. With our new shiny cat acquired, I found it prudent to start progressing more of the story before looking for our actual third member of the badge quest. Therefore, it was time to take our cat to one of the few places it won't like, the water, or in this case, the SS Anne. After running all over the SS Anne looking for the captain's quarters, we run into a rival who's just been taught the secret technique of chop down, which we'll be looking to learn. Before getting this secret technique, however, he decides to chuck us into a battle. After quickly mopping through our rival's team, we're able to meet the captain of the SS Anne, who's seasick. Anyway, after rubbing his back for some reason, he quickly thanks us and teaches the secret technique of chop down. This means that we can now clear away those pesky trees that were blocking our path in front of the gym. And after watching a nice scene of the ship sailing away, it was time to spin that pesky wheel again and see what our next hunt was going to be. Drowsy? Are you kidding me? Well, this wheel definitely lives up to its name. Let's get on with the hunt, I suppose. On the bright side, not long after building up our catch combo for Drowsy, Zuzu, our shiny green bat, manages to evolve into a much bigger bat. But that was the only interesting thing to happen during this hunt. After just over an hour into the hunt and a catch combo of only 65 Drowsy, this happened. Yeah, okay. Wasn't expecting that to happen. That's the first time we've phased on a shiny since we started this badge quest. And I'm not all thrilled about it, to be honest. Since we were kinda locked in to find our shiny Drowsy to progress our badge quest, I made the most insane decision. I was going to ignore this shiny Chansey and continue on with my Drowsy chain. Which, in hindsight, probably wasn't the best decision since we ended up losing our combo not long after this anyway. After waiting several more hours and getting our chain to over 209, we eventually finally found our shiny Drowsy. After finally catching our shiny Drowsy, I decided to give it the nickname of Marek, as it reminded me of the Yu-Gi-Oh character who was always trying to gain control over others using hypnosis powers, similar to Drowsy and Hypno, its future evolution. With our third badge member now added to the team, it was time to take on Lieutenant Surge for our third badge. And once again, Henry proved he was a key member for this badge quest, due to only using a few digs to take out his Voltorb, Magnemite, as well as his Raichu, securing us our third badge of the badge quest. As a result of obtaining our third gym badge, We now have a lot more of the map available to us, making the list of possible team members for the badge exponentially larger. So far, the wheel has given us some mid-level Pokemon. Let's hope it can be kind to us and give us some good, powerful mons to add to the team, like Charizard, Arcanine, Rhydon, or a Blastoise would be some very good options. Lo and behold, the wheel shows us that it is a true agent of chaos and misfortune by selecting Oddish as our next hunt. This is regrettable for us since the remaining gym battles all have the superior type advantage over our next badge member. With much pain in my choice of using a randomizer to select my badge targets, we head back towards Pewter City to start looking for our shiny Oddish. On the way there, we'd also managed to acquire the secret technique for Flash, which would be very helpful to us later in the run. I originally began hunting shiny Oddish on Route 2, but with not much luck getting spawns for it, and with a quick bit of research to find the most optimal area to hunt in, we ended up on Route 1, and this change turned out to be very beneficial, since after only 50 encounters we finally got our shiny Oddish. With Shiozaki now secured, we make the long trek all the way to Cerulean City for our next gym battle. On the way we meet Lorelei, one of the prestigious Elite Four members, who helps us out of a tricky situation with a Team Rocket encounter, which also results in Marek evolving into a lovely pink Hypno, and with Henry also learning all the moves needed through level up, I was now able to use that Moonstone I got all the way back in Mount Moon to evolve him into a Nidoking. Afterwards I proceed through Rock Tunnel reaching Lavender Town, which starts a section of storyline which I feel has some rather powerful emotions connected to it. And when playing through it for the first time back when I was a small and new Pokemon trainer, I didn't quite get the feelings they conveyed during this section of gameplay, but now as an adult the feelings of going through something as painful as grief over a loved one has a much stronger connection to me now. While progressing through this storyline we once again stumble into our rival, and he proceeds to engage in another Pokemon battle. This guy always seems to pick the strangest times to start a Pokemon battle. Anyway, we quickly sweep his team of Pokemon with our brand new shinies, and proceed upstairs. With the ghost quickly scaring off our rival, we are then forced to watch as the Cubone, still looking for its mother, proceeds down the stairway rather upset, which unfortunately for the Cubone leads it right into the path of Team Rocket and their underhanded tactics, which somehow convince the Cubone to follow them back to Celadon City and Team Rocket's hideout. I now feel obligated to head to Celadon City not only for our next badge but to save this poor Pokemon from the clutches of Team Rocket. After reaching the game corner and battling the Rocket Grunt who's protecting the poster to the hideout, Shiozaki manages to evolve into a Gloom, and I have to admit this shiny is a bit lackluster compared to its previous evolution. It goes from a gorgeous green into just a slightly brighter version of Gloom. Unfortunately this is the case for many of the shinies throughout Pokemon's history, so with a bit more power added to our team through Shiozaki's evolution, we head deeper and deeper into the Rocket hideout battling grunt after grunt until I eventually find the one with the lift key. However, after defeating him, he decides to put up one last ditch effort in order to prevent me from getting the key and reaching Giovanni, by launching the key into the rafters, hoping I wouldn't be able to obtain it. Thankfully, with the absolute convenience of a leftover chair and an air vent, our partner Pikachu manages to get up into the rafters, allowing him to crawl through the vent and eventually reach the key. I absolutely love little additions like this into the games. It gives the story a much more fresh and unique feel to it without changing too much of the game itself, and hope they come up with more little nuances like this in future games, as well as some of the remakes of the older games if they decide to do them. Like, come on, I would be so hyped for a Let's Go version of the Johto region, as it's by far one of my most favourite regions in the entire franchise. With the key acquired and the moving floor puzzles overcome, we reach Giovanni. Now for a team leader of an evil organisation, Giovanni isn't the worst in terms of scope compared to the other evil teams, although I have to admit, he does have one of the best styles of the team leaders. The full dripped suit looks so good in this game compared to the likes of Guzma from Team Skull. After managing to defeat and release the Cubone held in their hideout, Giovanni also gives us the Self Scope, a useful item for exploring the Pokemon Tower in the near future. But first, we have a gym to conquer, so I head on over to the Celadon gym to finally face Erica and her grass types. And this was by far the easiest battle we've had so far, as Hypno just one-shots each of our Pokemon without breaking a sweat. Do Pokemon even sweat? I suppose that's a question that can be answered another time. With that aside, we now have 4 gym badges and are halfway through our badge quest. If you've enjoyed the video so far, please hit the like and subscribe button and feel free to comment below your favourite part of the video and whether you would like to see more content like this in the future. With that out of the way, let's find out who our next badge member will be. Yo, Tentacool! Okay, I'm now realising this wheel wants to turn us into a poison type specialist. We already have a Nidoking, Golbat and a Gloom. Now we add Tentacle as another poison type for a total of 4. So with our target now firmly locked in, I quickly proceed back to Lavender Town since I need to get the flute to awaken the sleeping Snorlax on Route 12. Additionally, I also need to get the technique for Surf in Fuchsia City before even starting this hunt due to this being our first water hunt. And after all that effort just to get in encounters, we hit a roadblock with our shiny hunt. Oh, come on! Again? Really? That's twice in the same video. Bad thing is I didn't even notice the flea animation this time. Like when you look at these two clips side by side, there isn't much difference in its attack animation and its flea animation. Anyway, after having Tentacle run away on me and the combo breaking again, in addition to the fact that not many tentacles were spawning in the sea just outside of Fuchsia City, I ended up switching locations over to Route 12, and after a few hours of hunting and reaching a catch combo of 200, it finally happened. Oh my god, yes! The way this hunt was going, I thought we were going to go over odds for this, so I'm so glad we finally got it. With our new Kurotsuchi added to the team, it's time for one of the most difficult gyms in the entire Kanto region, that being Koga. With his team of poison types and the key move Toxic, this can be an absolute nightmare to get through if you're unprepared, or using self-imposed rules like we are. Especially with his Muck knowing the move Minimize, reducing the chances of being able to hit it. Additionally, you can't even enter the gym unless you have 50 Pokemon registered to your Pokedex, so we then had to quickly go and catch some random Pokemon to meet the requirement. Also during our progress to reach the Dex requirement, our shiny Tentacle tried to evolve. However, I decided not to do this yet since Tentacle learns both Hydro Pump and Poison Jab much earlier than Tentacruel. Now that we've achieved the target of registering 50 Pokemon to our Dex, it's time to head back to the gym and have the unfortunate experience in battling Koga. This is definitely one of the few gym leaders I don't miss having to battle again. What was really tragic for us as well was that before this battle, Henry, our Nidoking, ended up passing the level cap we set as one of the rules for this challenge, meaning we couldn't use him in the battle. However, turns out this didn't matter, with Zuzu or Golbat taking out Koga's Venomoth, Golbat and Muck, earning us our 5th badge of the badge quest, showing certain poison types are much superior to others and that being shiny definitely matters. Now the next badge is in Saffron City, but before that it's back to our Wheel of Misfortune. Hopefully it doesn't give us any more poison types, otherwise one really powerful ground type Pokemon or trainer could have us really chopped for the rest of the badge quest. Also, I would really appreciate having some type diversity as we still have 2 more badges to get and beat the Elite 4 to complete our shiny badge quest. Thankfully it gives us a break and we get a Kangaskhan, a Pokemon I've never even used before, much less gotten it shiny. So I quickly head over to Rock Tunnel to look for our new Mon, but after running around the cave for a long time I was struggling to find it. Mind you, Kangaskhan does have a 1% chance to spawn, making it one of the more difficult Pokemon in the game to build a chain with. And even after managing to find a few of them, it took multiple tries to actually get it to stay in the ball due to its really low catch rate since it didn't have a lot of Ultra Balls. Then I started getting flashbacks of our Zubat encounters with it shifting around so much, making it that even doing an accurate throw was a challenge in and of itself. I was really dreading how long this hunt was going to take based on our initial difficulty with it. Oh, wow. I was really fast, I wasn't expecting to get it anywhere near this early. I've literally just managed to build the catch combo up to 51. But anyway, I suppose we now have our newest badge member, and the shiny looks kinda dope being that rather light shade of grey instead of brown. With our brand new shiny Kangaskhan caught, I decided to name her after one of my favourite anime mums, that being Kushina from Naruto. Since although she only gets a small amount of screen time outside of the canon episodes, you can just see how much parental love she has for Naruto, quite similar to Kangaskhan and their kids. Our next stop was to head back to Saffron City, which had been taken over by Team Rocket, meaning that the gym was unfortunately closed off. Therefore we had to enter the Silph building to prevent Team Rocket from executing the new plan that he had concocted. Before even fighting against any of the Team Rocket members, Blue demands we battle him in order to prove we have the strength to take on them without his help, which I felt a little insulted by, considering he only used 2 Pokemon to try and gauge our strength with. Consequently, we easily run over his Executor with our Zuzu, landing one single U-turn to one-hit KO it, leaving Blue with only Charizard. Although I didn't know that at the time and ended up sending out Marek, but after only a few Psychics, Blue's Charizard was also defeated, allowing us to effectively chase Team Rocket out of Saffron City by ourselves. As an added bonus of this fight though, I managed to evolve Shiozaki or Gloom into a Vileplume, using the Leaf Stone to give it a nice boost to its stats. Not long after this we run into Archer again, and after a quick double battle together with our rival Alfred, we proved to be rather useful in this fight with his Cubone taking out Team Rocket's Muck, Weezing, and a bit of combination with our Zuzu it also took out the Electrode and Raticate. On Archer's way out after being defeated by both myself and Alfred, he accidentally drops the card key needed to reach the Silph Co President's office where Giovanni is currently located, which is a bit too convenient, but oh well, at least I don't need to go hunting every floor looking for it. After proceeding through some of the teleporters, Archer must have realised his mistake and followed us through. Thankfully our rival decides to block his path, allowing me to quickly move on, but not before bumping into Jesse and James once again. This fight isn't very difficult for us to get through, although Kurotsuchi finally managed to hit the level needed to learn Hydro Pump, which means he can now evolve into Tentacruel, which is exactly what we need for the rest of the badge quest, with it being a pretty powerful move and perfect for taking on Blaine right after we defeat Serena. We eventually reach Giovanni and his team is still no match for our current shiny Pokemon, with Kushina taking out his Persian rather swiftly, before falling to Giovanni's Rhyhorn. Although this is the only KO Giovanni gets, as Zuzu comes right in finishing off his Rhyhorn and then his Nidoqueen. With the battle now over, Giovanni takes his leave along with the rest of the Team Rocket members, and once we exit the Silph Co building, our rival informs us that the Saffron Gym is back to being open and we can now take on our 6th gym battle. One of the things I had forgotten about this gym was how annoying the teleporter puzzle was to figure out. However, after just a little bit of effort we finally reach Serena and the battle begins. I led this battle with Kushina since I was able to teach her Shadow Ball, hoping it would be a good move for this particular gym. And it did pay off a little, with Kushina managing to take out Sabrina's Mr. Mime, but then falls to her bulky Slowbro. Despite that, with the combination of Zuzu having Shadow Ball and Marek being resistant to Psychic type moves, we take out the rest of Sabrina's team consisting of Jinx and Alakazam, thus earning us the Marsh badge, our 6th badge of the badge quest, putting us one step closer to the Elite Four. With how well our wheel spin went last time, I was really hoping for it to come through just one more time, since we only have 2 encounters left at this point. And Lady Luck must have been smiling on me this time, as we got an absolute banger of a Pokemon in Electabuzz for a randomised encounter. With it having some really good special attack and speed, it was definitely going to be a permanent member of our team for the remainder of the video. So with a quick trip over to the power plant, we can begin looking for our 7th and penultimate member of the badge quest. Again, similar to Kangaskhan, Electabuzz was a pain to catch, with it either breaking out with multiple balls or trying to flee quite often. The other issue I found was that it either spawned further into the power plant, or I had to reset the spawns quite a few times before it would show up. But patience and effort always tend to be rewarded, and I managed to eventually get it to a stage where the catch had become easier due to the combo reaching over 80. Not long after this, and at a catch combo of 163, we found our shiny electric guy. I decided to give him the nickname of Loxus in honour of one of the first anime characters I've ever seen with electrical abilities. With Loxus added to my team, I felt like I could take on any challenge that came my way. No trainer was going to survive a Pokemon battle with me. I eventually reached Cinnabar Island ready to take on the 7th battle against the Fire-type gym leader Blaine, but as I got to the door I found it locked. How dare they not even let me battle due to getting a major buff on our team? Therefore I decided to mosey on over to the abandoned mansion to vent my frustration there. As it happens, while running around our exclusive rage room, I happened upon a secret key. Now I thought to myself, I wonder where this could be used. Then remembered they'd locked me out of the gym, but why would they put the key in here though? Well, after trying the key on the gym door and oddly enough having to participate in some weird quiz show, we can finally challenge Blaine. That was way too much effort just to enter the gym. I hope no other games have many challenges like this. With all the silly side events now out of the way, the battle can finally take place, meaning it's time for some of our newer badge quest members to shine. With Kurosuchi and Loxus taking the main leading roles here, eliminating Blaine's array of fire-type Pokemon. Kurosuchi takes out both Magmar and Arcanine, while Loxus ends up taking out Rapidash and Ninetales. It was a great way to test 2 possible members for our final team against the Elite Four. And with that, we now have our 7th badge and can move on to the 8th and final badge of this shiny badge quest. With another gym badge in hand, we exit the gym triumphantly, just for us to run into our rival who's already beaten Blaine and gotten the gym badge ahead of us. When will they ever let the player be ahead of the rival for once? Could you imagine a game where you become champion, then had to defend your title against your rival for your very first battle? I think that would be pretty awesome and make for a really fun twist compared to the usual instance of battling the rival after they have become the champion. Hold on, who did I miss while I was monologuing? Oh, right, the Viridian gym should be open now, and we can head there for our last gym badge. Before that though, I'm guessing everyone knows the situation by now, so I'm just going to jump right into it and let you see what happens. Welp, our last wheel spin gives us a Geodude. I mean, it's not a bad Pokemon, but sadly its final evolution Golem is a trade evolution, therefore we are not able to get the full power of Geodude. But you never know, it might still be useful to us at some point in these last few battles. Thus, it was time to head back to an all familiar area for us to hunt in, Mount Moon. Now compared to the last two randomised hunts, Geodude was a bit easier to catch, meaning it didn't take long for us to build the chain up to 31 and maximise our odds of finding the shiny. But of course, the wheel earns its dreaded nickname back, giving us a last spell of misfortune to end our shiny hunts, since we ended up going over odds on Geodude. Although the odds could have been much worse considering we only went 20 encounters over the odds, our golden boy and final shiny of the badge quest eventually showed up. Look at how good that golden shiny looks. I was so tempted to nickname him Golden, but decided to keep with the theme of the anime based nicknames and gave our 8th badge member the name of Kirishima. Before heading to Viridian City to face the last gym, I quickly spent some time grinding the levels for Kirishima to evolve into a Graveler, who unfortunately goes from a beautiful golden colour to a dark brown. I really wish they had left it as a golden shiny. With Kirishima evolved and now close to the level cap, it was time to face Giovanni. After successfully wiping out his team twice before, in this final gym battle he came back with the goal of trying to prevent me from finishing this badge quest. Since nearly all of his Pokemon knew the move Earthquake, it meant that most of my team was extremely weak to him. This proved to be the case with the first 4 Pokemon on each side being traded 1 for 1. However, this all changed due to the introduction of Giovanni's Nidoking, who manages to land a devastating one-hit KO with Horn Drill onto our Zuzu, and then ends up being faster than Kirishima, managing to knock out both in quick succession. Thankfully Loxus manages to be faster than Nidoking and lands a critical low kick to finish it off, but unfortunately loses out to Giovanni's last Pokemon Rhydon, leaving this as a 1v1 battle with Marik or Hypno. With Marik not having much health left, I chanced an optimistic Hypnosis which, if missed, resulted in us losing the battle, but after clicking the button and leaving our fate in the hands of the Pokemon RNG, Hypno manages to successfully land the Hypnosis. However, we still aren't clear yet. Rhydon could wake up at any point, so we click Psychic, taking it down to half health and pray that it doesn't wake up. Which it doesn't. So I clicked Psychic one more time and that should be the end of the battle. But luck gives and luck takes away, with Psychic rolling low and leaving Rhydon at about 5 HP. Our only hope here is Rhydon just doesn't wake up so we don't have to do this battle all over again. With Rhydon thankfully enjoying his much needed nap, Hypno lands the last Psychic and we've completed all 8 gym battles of the badge quest, now allowing us to battle the Elite Four. Before we reach the entrance to Victory Road, our rival challenges to one more battle, which we easily win with 5 Pokemon remaining, although the most annoying part of this fight was when his Pidgeot spammed Roost for several turns in a row, meaning it took us a lot longer to defeat him. But with that battle out of the way, we quickly made our way through Victory Road and arrived at the Pokemon League. After finalising our team selection and adding some coverage moves to our Pokemon, we began our Elite Four challenge. Up first was Lorelei. I tried to do some setup with Kirishima, but that didn't work out too well. Therefore I sent in Loxus and he quickly dealt with our Dewgong as well as our Jinx before being KO'd by Lorelei's Lapras, which Kurosuchi quickly took care of. Lorelei's last Pokemon was Slowbro, so I swapped into Cushion and after one Shadow Ball and some poison assist from a Sludge Bomb that Kurosuchi used earlier on, the first Elite Four member was defeated. Next up was Bruno and his powerful fighting type Pokemon. This time I sent out Marik to go for a Hypnosis, to allow Kirishima to do some setup with Stealth Rocks for extra chip damage without hopefully taking any damage. After Kirishima went down to Onix, Kurosuchi sent Onix back to the Stone Age with a powerful Surf. Up next was Bruno's ace, Machamp, and I stayed in here not realising that I had access to EQ, which unfortunately took our jelly friend out. Zuzu then came out and swept Bruno's Machamp, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, and after surviving a waterfall in just 17 HP took out Poliwrath for the win, meaning our second Elite Four member was no more. However, here's where things start to get dicey, as the next member was Agatha with her speedy poison type duplicates of Gengar. Again we did some setup with rocks for extra damage, and let me tell you, this came in very handy. You know, it's like they say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. After using 2 separate Earthquakes we took out Agatha's Arbok and getting rid of her Glairmon, which is crucial due to the speed of Gengar. Our Gengar quickly took out Kirishima and right after it Kushina fell to this speedy ghost. It then became a back and forth battle, trading one knockout for another, until it was just down to Agatha's last Gengar and Zuzu, our Golbat. With our Golbat still pretty healthy, it meant that 2 Crunchies were enough to secure the win. This matchup was tough, but our battle against Giovanni was still more difficult in my opinion. With 3 members now down, it meant there was only one more to go, and last up was Lance. We started out with Seadra, who was immediately taken out by a powerful thunderbolt from Loxus or Electabuzz. Lance then sends out his Aerodactyl, so I stayed in with Loxus thinking it would be an easy matchup with some electric type moves. However, I once again didn't realise this ancient fossilised bird could learn Earthquake, and almost managed to take out Loxus, leaving him on just 5 HP. I quickly swapped him out expecting another Earthquake, so in came Zuzu, and one Shadow Ball later it put Aerodactyl down for another long nap, before the aggressive menace that is Gyarados dealt with her Zuzu. Now I was putting a dilemma at this point. I know Gyarados is 4 times weak to electric type moves, but I wasn't sure if Loxus would be fast enough to beat it to the vital move. Ultimately I decided to risk it, and it paid off. Loxus managed to knock out Lance's Gyarados with a single Thunderbolt. Then Charizard came in and finished off what Gyarados couldn't. Again, with another one of Lance's team 4 times weak to one of my Pokemon, I had to send in Kirishima to one-hit KO him with a Rock Slide. Last up was Lance's ace, Dragonite, which Kurosuchi was able to defeat with 2 Ice Beams while surviving on very little health. With now all members of the Elite Four being defeated, it was time to face the champion and our rival throughout the entire badge quest, Alfred. We'd managed to defeat him time and time again, and this time wasn't any different. With Kirishima once again setting up Stealth Rocks, it shows why moves like this are vital in giving little extra points of damage throughout a long battle, as it can be the difference in whether one single Pokemon survives on very little HP or getting the complete knockout. Right after this though, Kirishima was rudely dropped like a stone by Alfred's Mega Pidgeot. We then managed to get some extra damage onto his Pidgeot with a Thunderbolt from Loxus before he switches into Marowak. Knowing that a potential Earthquake could be coming, he sent out Zuzu, and after correctly predicting the Earthquake, a couple of Shadow Balls later Marowak fell. Due to Alfred then sending in his Jolteon, I sent out Kushna to try and take it out with an Earthquake of my own. But Jolteon was just too fast for Kangaskhan, who unfortunately doesn't quite get to showcase her abilities in this battle and goes down from a powerful Thunder. I decided to try and do an Ash type move and paired an Electric type against an Electric type by sending out Loxus. With a few extra Brick Breaks, after our rival sneakily healing up his Jolteon, we found out that Loxus was truly the superior Electric type Pokemon. With Alfred now sending out his Vileplume, I sent out Hypno and one powerful Psychic was enough for the victory over it. No one gets to use my shiny Pokemon in front of me without my permission. But then our rival sends out Rapidash and shows why it's known for its speed, and a single Flare Blitz takes out Marek. Kurosuchi then hits back with a Surf before also being taken down by our rival's Slowbro. With 2 Pokemon being left on Alfred's team, his Slowbro as well as his Mega Pidgeot, Loxus came back in for his final showing, and with just a couple of Thunder Punches later, we had beaten our rival and secured our victory over the Elite Four, becoming the new champion. The only thing left to do now was register our awesome team of shinies into the Hall of Fame. This was such a fun challenge to do, and I was really happy with how our team performed, and getting to use a bunch of shiny Pokemon and Pokemon I'd never really used before gave me a completely different and much more unique experience to a game I already enjoyed so much. The thrills and difficulties of finding our shiny Pokemon, going through each of the gym battles and restricting use of items as well as the other rules we had in place, made this challenge much more difficult, but at the same time the reward for completing the game was that much more satisfactory. I had so much fun doing this challenge and hope to do more in the future, so if you really enjoyed this video please consider leaving a like, comment and possibly subscribing, and I hope to see you again in our next Pokemon journey.